On episode 269 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Shawna Kaminski and discuss her book, Lose Your Menopause Belly. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/269. And guys, before you cut out, a lot of the advice that we're giving during the show is practical to just about anybody. So please, don't bolt out. You're going to learn something too, so stick around. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Hello. And thank you again for joining me here at 40 Plus Fitness. I really do appreciate you being part of the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to sharing today's conversation with you. But before we get into that, I did want to talk a little bit about the surgery. I told you I'd give you some updates. The surgery went well. Coming out of the surgery, looks like everything was done the way we expected. No surprises there. Some pain, particularly the first day or two. They gave me a little pump thing that sat on my shoulder that basically was supposed to give me some Novocaine over the course of 2 days. It stopped working about the middle of the first day, that night of the first night. And so I was in a good bit of pain. I did take some pain meds for a day, and then I went ahead and I cut those out. I'm not a big fan of being on medicine that I don't have to, so I did test the waters. It was a little tough, but I gutted it out. I've managed to make it through the surgery with minimal pain. Got a little bit of bruising and whatnot that's going on right now, and obviously the incision and that my arm is in a sling, and that's a whole nother matter that I'll get into a little next week, because I do want to talk about some of the things as I initially got into physical therapy that are going on, so I can kind of share that with you for next week's episode. Just to let you know, the surgery went as expected, no major problems there. I'm now into the recovery phase, and we'll just go do my PT and get this thing worked out. It's really slowed me down, which has made it a little bit difficult to get things that I would normally get done. So I am a little behind schedule, but I'm going to catch up. I'll get there. And I'm figuring out a lot of things with my left hand, which is probably a whole other episode that I'll talk a little bit about neuroplasticity and mixing things up, because it has been interesting to try to learn to do things differently, given that I do most things right-handed. It has been a very, very interesting time, and I'm glad to share it with you. With all that's been going on with my shoulder, unable to do much exercise beyond walking. So I've turned my focus towards things I can actually control, like my sleep, if my shoulder will let me. Obviously, the pain kind of makes that a little difficult at times, but I do try to work on my sleep. Stress. I'm now meditating each day. And better nutrition. That's why I'm very excited to announce that we have partnered with Thrive Market. Thrive Market has cut out the middleman in getting high-quality, healthy food. This allows them to send you great products at up to 50% off retail. They're a membership club, much like Sam's or Costco, but they're way cooler. They guarantee you'll earn back your membership costs within your first 2 orders. In fact, I did it on my first order. Now, you may not have seen my Facebook Live I did where I unboxed my Thrive Market order. I won't bore you with the details, but I ordered over $200 worth of stuff and paid less than $90 for it. I was stoked. They're a great company helping to make healthy food affordable for everybody. Please go to thrivemarket.com/40 and check them out. As a special offer, you'll also get an additional 25% off your first order and free shipping. You'll get to test the waters with a free 30-day membership, but I know you're going to love them. Go to thrivemarket.com/40 and give them a shot. Help support the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast and allow me to keep bringing you great episodes each week. thrivemarket.com/40. Thank you. Our guest today has been in the fitness industry for well over 30 years. She's written a couple different things, including her new book, Lose Your Menopause Belly. Now, she does focus predominantly on women, and obviously women over 40, those that are dealing with the change and obviously seeing some changes to their body they're unhappy with, and helps them work through those issues and get back to the body that they want. Now, guys, before you bolt out of here, realize a lot of the advice we're going to go through, I would not leave you out in a cold. So I did, in fact, make sure that this is a discussion that everybody's going to get something from. But I'm just telling you, we really dive into the tips. It's a small little book that she put out, but it is just packed full of useful tips to help you lose your menopause belly, or guys, our andropause belly. It's the same thing. And we go through all that in this episode. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Shawna Kaminski. So Shawna, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Alan.
I got your book and I thought, okay, well, this is a little condensed little book. And I thought I like that because that's basically something I can get through quickly. But as I got into it, I realized, wait. This is like jam-packed. This is not fluff stories, fluff this, fluff that. This is literally as much content I think as you'd get in a 300-page book in a much smaller platform, which I really appreciated that you were able to really consolidate a lot of your lessons, a lot of what you do with your clients into such a concise, great package.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that observation because I think the most important thing about a book is to have it read. And so I didn't want to make a 300-page book that everyone would look at and say, oh, I really need to read that book. I want to make something very consumable. And honestly, the book is just the start, as you know, but it gives a lot of actionable steps to get people going.
And I think that's what was really cool about it was not a lot of theory. I mean, it did give some of the science, some of the background for why you do the things you do in your programming. But at the same time, it was very clear, okay, here's what you should do. And then here's some tips to just make it easier for you to do this.
Absolutely. Like I said, with my book, I really wanted to make it consumable. I wanted to make women pick it up, read it within an hour or two, and then just take action. So the thing is there is lots of theory. There's lots of science that's put into this book. But most people, they don't really want to read that science. And that's what Google is for. Like anybody can Google that.
Google and Wikipedia are our best friends, right? And I'll say this, as a guy kind of reading through the tips in here, they're not women-centric tips. And so while the book is Lose Your Menopause Belly, this is not a book that just says, okay, this is for women and it wouldn't work for men. The reality is these are the same general concepts that I would use with a man as I would with a woman, because they just are fundamental to our health and wellness.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that a lot of women think that it's just my menopausal hormones that are causing me this belly fat. And while the menopausal hormones do contribute to belly fat accumulation, if you look at men in their 40s and 50s, a lot of men, we're not going to call it a menopause belly, but they experience increased belly fat and waist girth as well. And so lots of the concepts in my book, Lose Your Menopause Belly, can be transferred to men as well. There are some concepts regarding insulin resistance and hypothyroidism that mimic menopausal symptoms. And that's sometimes where the confusion lies. Women think that they're suffering menopause symptoms when actually some of those symptoms men might be suffering too, because they might be insulin resistance or hypothyroidism.
So we can just call that menopause.
Menopause. That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
But you introduced a term, and it's interesting because, I do a lot of reading, but it's really kind of the first time I've seen someone like write this term and use this as a kind of a bench of managing and understanding all of this. And it's called somatopause. Could you go a little bit into what somatopause is? And then we can kind of jump off of that and talk about, once we now know what it is, what we can do about it.
All right. So we're talking about somatopause. It's a little bit of a new term for a lot of people, but really what it is it's the downward spiral of the anti-aging hormone, human growth hormone. And as we age, that naturally decreases, and that kind of causes somatopause, which is really to blame for a lot of our aging issues, whether you're a man or a woman. So it's the decline of HGH or human growth hormone that actually causes lots of menopausal issues.
And so as we kind of look at it, and this is in both, again, men and women, they're going to notice decreases in their sex hormones, which is going to make some fundamental changes to their body and to how they feel. And then we're both going to experience some decreases in our HGH, which again is going to have its own series of changes and whatnot, some of which overlap. And so as we get older, short of doing anything about it, we're going to be on this kind of state of decline where we're going to be seeing symptoms, many of which now are going to be increased adipose body fat. And that's the outward symptom that I think is kind of the first thing that people say, ooh, I don't like this, and then after that, they start getting the other symptoms that come along after. But as we kind of talk about now, I'm showing these symptoms. I've got this additional body fat that I'm not really happy about, or in the case of this, for most of us, now belly fat, which is the worst kind for us to have from a health perspective. What can we do about it from basically a lifestyle and exercise perspective?
What we want to do is we want to naturally increase our own HGH levels, and exercise does that. And the correct type of exercise is what's needed to naturally increase your own HGH levels. And so a lot of women in particular, when they think of exercise, especially women over 40, their first go-to is to go to cardio, long, slow, low intensity cardio. And that's not going to increase HGH levels. While it's better than doing nothing, it's not going to address the decline in HGH.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell this is the natural flow of things. Anytime you've walked in a gym the first week of January and you look at all the treadmills and ellipticals and bicycles and anything that would be that long, slow cardio thing, they're full. They're full all morning, they're full all evening. And so you really can't even go in and get on those things if you wanted to. That's why it's cool that we can go back to the free weight section, or we can go back into the workroom where we can do body weight exercises, and we can actually get the right kind of exercise. And in that kind of exercise, I love that you encourage folks to explore and get into high intensity interval training. And the reason being, it creates this process called Epoch. And I'd like you to go into Epoch a little bit, because I think that's the concept that a lot of people miss when they start thinking about interval training, is like, how can I go in the gym and in as little as maybe 4 minutes get a complete workout by doing something like a Tabata, but going in and in just even really 4 minutes, you can get a full body exercise that's going to actually show fundamental changes in your body.
Right. And studies back that up, that even a 4-minute, very intense workout. And before I get into Epoch, I want to point out that intensity is, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to get an effective 4-minute workout, because it depends on the person. So what Mrs. Jones can do in 4 minutes as a beginner, she can get an intense workout that will elicit Epoch, which I'm going to explain in a minute. And Mrs. Smith, who might be a very experienced exerciser, could also do a 4-minute workout and experience Epoch. So this Epoch, or excess post-oxygen consumption, where we get an elevated metabolism or calorie burn long after we're done exercising, it's not just reserved for the elite. So let's go into what Epoch is.
I like using that when I'm going to do a group training and I'm given the option. I love doing these for group trainings, because we can sit there and say, okay, it's really you and the timer, and we're going to go on hard for a short period of time, and then we're going to rest for a period of time. And those can vary based on what we're trying to accomplish. But literally, the two of you can be working side by side, and she might get 3 to 4 times more reps in than you got in. But you're both at that same exertion level based on your current fitness level. And we're in it together, doing it together. And we all finish together, which I just think kind of is one of those things of saying, you're not challenging her, you're challenging you. And to me, that's the fundamental awesomeness of that type of workout, is you can do it. And it's also measurable. As you start doing these types of workouts, you notice over time, I'm getting more reps in, I'm getting more work in the same amount of time, which tells me I'm getting fitter and healthier. But yes, it does create this thing called Epoch, which is why just a short duration is going to mean a lot more to us. So I'll let you go ahead and go into what that is.
Yeah. So Epoch stands for excess post-oxygen consumption, or another term for it is afterburn. And what it means is just that you're burning calories for an extended period after you're done the exercise. So I just want to clear up one misconception. And I think one of the reasons lots of people, women in particular, have a go-to with cardio is that they may have heard or read that low intensity cardio burns more fat as an energy source, which studies show that's absolutely true. But when you're doing exercise at a higher intensity, what you burn more carbohydrates along with fat, but you burn more overall calories when you're going at a higher intensity. And so at the end of the day, it's all about burning energy. And so with Epoch, you're burning more calories long after the exercise is done. So if Mrs. Jones is on a treadmill kind of plodding away for 30 minutes, she may be burning fat at a low rate on that treadmill. Then she steps off the treadmill and the calorie burning is done. Where Mrs. Smith might be doing Tabata style or, resistance and burst style exercises where she's going at a higher intensity, even for a lesser period of time. But when she's done that exercise, she's still burning calories. And so then overall, she's going to be burning more calories in her day. So that's more important, is to burn more energy with the exercise than just be burning straight fat as an energy source.
And the other two major benefits that I think people can take to heart here is that because you're doing something other than just on a treadmill or just walking or just riding an elliptical or whatever you're doing, you're actually moving major muscle parts through a range of motion. So you're getting endurance build that you wouldn't get doing as short a time otherwise. And in many cases, if you're using resistance while you're doing this, you're also building some strength. And in a shorter period of time, and I think that, again, that's the other benefit, is who has time to spend 1 hour in the gym every single day? And it doesn't take that. Now, what I like to do with my clients, and I, because, what I would say with HIIT training is not something that you should do every day, or maybe even every other day. You might need more time for general recovery, but taking those recovery days and basically using them as active rest. And so maybe you do go on a walk in nature so that you're using that for stress relief, and you're using that for building social relationships with a friend. So you go for a nice walk in nature. And so on your rest days, they're active, they're slow, but they're basically, so they are in that fat burning mode. But basically then you're building in those high intensity days as your body can recover. And for some of us, that's 2 times a week. Some of us, that might be 3 times a week, or it might just be 1 time a week and you need that extra recovery time. But you're going to get more bang for the buck in a much shorter period of time by incorporating this into your workouts.
Absolutely. Yes. And time is the number one reason that most people don't exercise. So by reducing or eliminating that excuse to exercise, by making exercise more doable, it's more likely that it's going to get done.
And like I say, I could give you a body weight squat Tabata that you do for 4 minutes. And when you get done with that 4 minutes, you don't want to do another one.
You're done. Exactly. And that's right.
Okay. So now you have an acronym that I love as we're kind of talking about food, because I think that's the other side of the equation. So now we've done this thing that's going to help us burn a few more extra calories over time, because we've brought up this oxygen consumption that's now allowing our bodies to burn calories well after the exercise, in some cases as long as 24 to 36 hours after. But now you have this acronym that I love called HALT. Because a lot of people crave food. They're like, oh, I got this craving for something crunchy, salty, and so I'm going to go plunder the pantry to see if I have something salty, crunchy. But you use the word HALT.
So I really try and get my clients to become more aware of their eating. And this actually goes for all behavior, but I'm applying it to eating right now. Like, am I really hungry? Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? And then I wanted to add S, so it really should be HALTs. So am I stressed? Why am I eating? The only reason you should be eating is because you're hungry, the H in the HALT. So many people eat emotionally because they're angry, lonely, tired, or stressed. And so it's important for us to get really close to our appetite to find out, am I eating because I'm hungry, or just because I'm bored, or because it's a social situation? And so I just remind my clients to consider, why are you eating? And so that's where that HALT came up. But like I said, it can come up and be applicable to any situation. In relationships, how am I reacting? Am I on my best behavior? Maybe if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, or stressed, maybe that's not a good time to make a big decision or to have a hard conversation. So it's applicable in multiple situations, but very applicable where nutrition is concerned.
I had to be the parent. We have a niece that's living with us, and I had to be the disciplinarian. I had just arrived from an international trip, and I was exhausted. My wife's like, okay, well, I'll have her come home now. And I'm like, no, I'm tired. I'm not in the right state of mind to have the right conversation with her right now. So I'm like, no, have her come tomorrow, because I understood my nature. And that's what I like about this halt, or halts, as you want to put it now, when you do the rewrite, is that it's mindful. It's being understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and therefore you're able to make a better decision. And I often tell my clients, how many times have you grabbed a bag of chips to just walk over and you're sitting in front of the TV, and half an hour into the program, you realize that whole bag of chips is gone?
And you don't even remember eating it, and you didn't enjoy it. It's just mindless.
And so the halt, I think, is one great way for you to at least understand why you're doing what you're doing. But you also have another one called the 10-minute rule, which I love. Could you kind of get into what the 10-minute rule is?
Right. And I have to give credit to one of my favorite clients, Judy, for coming up with the 10-minute rule. And the 10-minute rule is just kind of a way out. Like, a lot of people, we've experienced it as well. So everyone should know that whether you're a seasoned exerciser or just a beginner, not everybody feels like exercising all the time. So if you just tell yourself, I'm just going to do this for 10 minutes, I'm just going to work out for 10 minutes. Generally what happens is once you get moving, the 10-minute mark will come by and you'll probably finish your workout. It's just a matter of getting you off the couch and getting going, but it gives you an out. And then on the off chance that by 10 minutes, you're just not feeling it, at least you got 10 minutes of exercise in. And 10 minutes is actually significant. It's much better than nothing. And like you were talking about that Tabata, that 4-minute Tabata, that can be enough to just do you in. That can be plenty. So the 10-minute rule is just a way to get you moving. And like I said, one of my favorite clients, Judy, gave me that. And I told her I would forever steal it, but give her credit because it's brilliant. I love it.
And it is, because, one of the things that we talk about a lot, and it does take a little while to kind of get to this point, but once you get in the general practice of working out, what you'll find is by about that 10-minute, you've gotten your body warm and the endorphins are kind of really starting to really come out, and you're moving something, you're moving weight, you're starting to get your heart pumping, you're getting your energy up. You're actually feeling how exercise is going to bring more energy into your body. Everybody thinks, okay, well, if I do a hard workout, then I'm going to be exhausted for the rest of the day. But if you actually go out and do a really hard workout, it's the exact opposite.
Exactly. You're so energized.
You're awake. You have more energy. Yeah.
You think more clearly. Yeah. Exercise is remarkable in that way that it doesn't suck your energy out. It gives you more energy, which is such most people don't understand that. And that's just a benefit that they get when they're shocked that they're expending all this energy exercising, and then they have more energy throughout the day. So not only are they burning calories through the exercise, but then they're probably more active and energized through the day where they're burning more calories. So it's kind of a double whammy of activity and increased metabolic rate through movement.
And you're buying back that time. So I can just tell you, this little 10-minute investment of your time is going to pay you back in dividends of you being more productive throughout the day. And you'll get more than your 10 minutes back.
Absolutely. And honestly, who doesn't have 10 minutes? Really, I feel that, between 10 minutes and 30 minutes a day, you can have a very solid exercise program. And I would venture to say that most people have even 30 minutes a day to themselves to exercise. It's a matter of priority.
I think almost every one of us can say we probably sit down and watch more than 10 minutes of TV each day.
Or sit on Facebook or
exactly.
Do social media or read a book or whatever.
Give up one of those sessions and do something physical. And if you can, put a treadmill in front of the TV and do both. It's possible. So now, beyond Judy, and again, her rule is brilliant and you can tell her I said so, Diane had kind of an approach to her story of how, and I call it the snowball effect. But basically, can you tell us what Diane did and why it was so effective for her?
Well, what I love about Diane's story is she epitomizes my whole theory in terms of getting fit and getting healthy. And what she did is when she decided that she needed to make some changes, she made one small change. she actually just stopped putting cream and sugar in her coffee. And that has snowballed, as you would say, with the snowball effect, such that she has lost over 50 pounds because it started with the sugar in the coffee, and then she changed her brand of protein. And then like over time, she just dialed in her nutrition slowly and slowly. And all the while she was doing the right kind of exercise. And so over time, she saw these results. And it was slow going, and I know she was discouraged at times, but she just kept stepping forward, baby steps towards change, because the changes were doable. They weren't overwhelming. It's nearly impossible. You're setting yourself up for failure when you say that you're going to stop drinking, stop sugar, go gluten-free, become a vegetarian, eat more protein, start exercising.
The 9 New Year's resolutions we make and break by the 7th day. Yeah.
Right. Oh, if you last the 7 days. And so this was such a great doable approach. And this is what I've always preached to my clients. And then here she went and did it. It's like, man, and she is close to 60 and she's an amazing person and she's still going strong.
Now, one of the cool things about Diane's story I thought was really good, and it's a good life lesson for all of us, is that we all have this draw to the scale. We have this draw to the simple. The simple is give me one number that tells me everything I need to know. And for one reason or another, everybody has turned to the scale. Even our doctor. You know, our doctor doesn't tell us we need to lose body fat. Our doctor tells us we need to lose weight. He doesn't say you need a better body composition, because quite frankly, I walk in and I step on the scale. Okay. And as someone who's right under 5'11", the little BMI tells me I should be 178 pounds and I weigh about 215.
So there's no regard to composition. You are probably at that body weight, according to the BMI, you might be classified as obese.
Yes, I am clinically obese with a 19% body fat.
And so the scale is not a clear picture on what's going on in your body. You can be the other opposite end of the spectrum as well. Like you can be seriously underweight, and like there's just no composition factored into that.
And I asked someone, I said, okay, what you really want, and I don't want to shame anybody, but I just want to say, if you were 2 dress sizes smaller, but weighed the same, would you be happy?
That's a good question.
But they really struggle with that. They're like, I don't know.
Exactly. Everyone is so fixated on the number. And so really what we have to do is neutralize the scale. It's not our best friend when it's a good number, and it's not the devil incarnate when it's a bad number. I know women that get on the scale and ruin their day, or it's just a great day because the scale said, and that's real. I mean, I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but it's verging on that because there's so many other measures of health.
Yeah, we are such a complex being, you know, as a machine. And you kind of look at it and say, okay, even when we do blood work, the doctor doesn't just look at one metric of your blood work. They're looking at all of your different organ functions. They're looking at your cholesterol, your blood sugar. They're looking at all other kinds of enzymes and hormones and other things that are going on in your blood to make sure that you have good general health. And so to try to boil it all down in our minds to just one number, and I know it's really hard to push you off that one number, but I would say if at least you sit down and you build out a series of about 4 or 5 different health metrics that you're going to work on, what you'll find is if you're doing the right things for yourself, you'll be moving 2 or 3 of those all the time, while 1 or 2 of them might be sticking. And that's fine. You're still showing progress in those others, and the other metrics will change. If you need to lose body fat and, you know, obviously you gain a little bit of muscle, that's fine. But over time, yes, you're going to start losing that body fat as well. And slowly you're going to see the scale go down. But that's just a natural progression of your body adapting and doing the things it's supposed to do. But if you're noticing that your blood work is getting better, you notice that your skin and complexion is getting better, when you look yourself in the mirror and your eyes look clear and healthy, to me, those are the better metrics than just to list one and say, okay, I'm going to rely all my faith and everything in my body weight and call it that. Because again, I'm clinically obese.
And not so. You're the epitome of health, I'm sure. You know, having only met you virtually via the interwebs, as a fitness professional, you are an example of health, but actually a great example to show that, you know, look, my BMI says I'm clinically obese, but I'm actually not.
Well, I have numbers that my doctor says I shouldn't have, and we talk about that. And it's like, okay, you know, I'm not going to let one number define me. I'm going to look at my overall health and say, okay, cholesterol is not what they want it to be, but it's always been high. And there's nothing I've ever been able to do. I even went vegetarian and couldn't get my number to go down. I've taken statins and couldn't get my number to go down. So, my number is what my number is. It's kind of the same thing with my weight. I'm not going to give up a body part. I'm not going to give up muscle for the sake of saying I want to weigh a certain weight, because that, to me, that's just not responsible care for my health. So I'm much more of, when I wake up in the morning and I look myself in the mirror, how do I look and feel? And then, yes, there are those other metrics that I'll do. And then, I recently got this kit, and it's basically from a company that measures your telomeres. And so I'm going to prick my finger tomorrow morning probably and go ahead and send in my little kit for my telomeres and let them tell me what my telomere age is. And then a year later, I'll send it in again and see if I've made any market improvements based on telomeres. Now, that's just one number, but it is a number.
Right, but on top of everything else. And that's the point, is that you want to, because we're complex beings, we can't just take one number like the scale or even the telomere number or your BMI or your body fat, because unless we're doing like hydrostatic weighing, which is still not 100% accurate, we're going to get just ballpark figures. But if we're getting ballpark figures on a lot of things, and then we take in the intangibles, like, how am I actually feeling? Do I feel strong and energized? Can I do the things that I want in my life? And those are the things that are more important than the number on the scale.
And I think, to me, that was what was so compelling of Diane's story, was that even when she didn't see the scale moving, she knew she was moving in the right direction, and she kept with it.
Yeah, she's an inspiration. And I love that about my clients, in that I ask if I can share their story. And, she looked at me kind of with a strange face. Like, I said, Diane, this is inspirational. And she just didn't think that, that was just a big thing, because I just did it. Because most people don't think the things they do are inspirational. So it's a great lesson for all of us.
So now I want to close out. You have one other thing that you got into that I thought was, it was really, really interesting. And it was looking at goals, and it was kind of breaking down goals a little bit differently than I had, kind of a paradigm I had not thought of before, is that many people will make goals that are outcome based, but you also look at approaching goals from a process base. So could you kind of talk about the two?
Right. So a lot of people will, New Year's will come along, or they'll want to set a goal for themselves, and they'll say, okay, I want to lose X amount of pounds. And so that's more of an outcome goal, or I want to earn this amount of money. I want to buy this kind of house. So it's more of an outcome goal. What I prefer to have clients set are more process goals, because you're in control of the process. So, for example, instead of saying, like, Diane has lost over 50 pounds now, and she probably had a ballpark number in her head of how much weight she wanted to lose, but she didn't focus on the weight loss as her goal so much. She didn't focus on the outcome as much as the process. So her process goals were, I'm not going to put cream and sugar in my coffee. I'm going to exercise 3 to 4 times a week, because those were things that she could always be in control of. You can't always be in control of your weight loss. Like, a lot of things happen that and this is what people get hung up on, is that they get really excited about some health goals. And when results don't come right away, for example, if you say, okay, I want to lose 5 pounds this week, this month, people always set lofty goals where weight loss is concerned. And then when it doesn't happen right away, they think, well, this didn't work. I give up. I'm not going to do what I set out to do because I didn't reach my outcome goal. Instead, if you set a process goal that I'm going to exercise 3 to 4 times a week this entire month, and then I'll see where I'm at, then it's more likely that you're going to reach an outcome goal when you set that, set the action in place to make that outcome occur. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it would be like a situation of me saying, I'm going to prepare my own meals for dinner every night this week except for one. I'll let myself go out, because maybe I like to go out more often now. And I realize when I go out, I make poor choices for food. But if I make my own food, I know that I'm eating better because I know what's going in it. So I say, okay, this week I'm going to prepare food. Now, that might mean that on Sunday I do a batch cooking, so it's all very convenient for me to have all that available to me throughout the week. And that makes my process goal now that much more successful because it's easy for me to do because all that's now sitting there in the fridge or the freezer ready for me to pull out and do. But at least at that point, I have control over it rather than me saying, I'm going to lose 5 pounds this week because I lost 5 pounds last week. And it's like, well, that's not reality, because if you sat there and said, well, okay, well, I'll just lose 5 pounds every week hereafter, well, eventually I would weigh 0. So that, there isn't a straight line to this. And so understanding that you will kind of reach an outcome that you want, but if you focus on the delivery of it, the actions rather than the outcome, then you have that opportunity.
Right. Just the behaviors, because we're in control of our own behaviors, of what we're going to do with our bodies, what we're eating, how we're sleeping, how we're moving our bodies. So yeah, if we control that part of it, then the outcome will come. And it's not always on our own, like the time frame. And so it's easier to stick with. If I had the goal of losing 5 pounds this week, I might not have met that goal and would have felt like, I missed the mark. But if I set the goal as I'm going to exercise 4 times this week and I'm going to cook for myself except for one night, I can be successful because I'm in control of that. And then I might even have lost 5 pounds. I might have lost more, I might have lost less, but I still am successful with the exercise and the nutrition piece that's going to lead me to that outcome.
Outstanding. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, Shawna, I've taken a lot of your time and I really do appreciate you coming on to 40 Plus Fitness. If someone wanted to learn more about you, learn more about your book, Lose Your Menopause Belly, where would you like for me to send them?
They can just go to loseyourmenopausebelly.com. They can find me on Facebook, ShawnaKWorkouts.com, Facebook.com/Shawna K Workouts. And they can find me on Instagram, Shawna Kaminski. I'm all over the social media. And the book is very easy to find. Lose Your Menopause Belly. Just spell it out, no spaces.com. And I would love to share it. It is free. Just pay for shipping and handling. I'm really motivated to help women look and feel better in their own skin, as you are too, because there are so many simple things that you can do that will make a big difference.
And I think that's the point, is this little bitty book is just chock full. We've really only scratched the surface of the tips and types of things that are in this book that can help you be successful on your health and fitness journey. So again, Shawna, thank you so much for being on 40 Plus Fitness.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for letting me share with you. It's great talking, Alan.
Now, before you get too far, I just want to remind you to go check out Thrive Market at thrivemarket.com/40 to claim your 25% discount off their already discounted prices, free shipping, and a free 30-day membership. Go give it a shot. I know you're going to enjoy it. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Derek Barras and discuss his book, Whole Motion, training your brain and body for optimal health. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.